interlinear models. So variables is a symbol which represents a quantity that can vary. Constant. A constant is a symbol which represents a specific number and does not vary. Example, velocity times, or v times t equally, I should say. Counting numbers, natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, etc. So in other words, positive numbers. Integers, on the other hand, are both negative numbers and positive numbers, including 0 as well, which is a neutral number. So let's go back to our example. B times t equals d. So I was starting out to say b times t equals d, and I kind of already gave it away. B represents velocity, t represents time in hours, and d represents the distance. So let's say you're driving at your local freeway. Okay, and let's say your local freeway is 65 miles per hour. So you're driving at 65 miles per hour, 65 times t equals d then. Notice that there's nothing between the 65 and the t, so therefore it's implied multiplication. There is no addition, no subtraction, and no division sign. So it's got to imply that it's multiplying. 65 is multiplying with the t. So 65 times t or 65t is how we say it. Okay, at your local freeway, once again, the velocity is 65 miles per hour. Just a rough approximation or rough idea, rough concept. Okay, so therefore, is this going to change? Well, ideally, we don't expect the freeway speed to change within, let's say, a year or so, right? So let's say it remains constant. So it does not change. It's a constant. So that's an example of our constant. In this case, b, the velocity, does not change. Okay, let's try to make a table. T, time, in hours, and d, miles. Okay, so let's say you drive for 1 hour. Okay, so we replace t, the time, with 1 because we've driven 1 hour. 65 times 1 gives you 65. So if you drive for 1 hour, you've driven 65 miles. Okay. If you drive for 2 hours, replace the t with 2. 65 times 2 gives you 130, right? So if you've driven for 2 hours, then you've driven equivalents of 130 miles. And once again, let's say you drive for 3 hours now. So replacing the t with a 3, 65 times 3 gives you 195. 195 miles that you've driven after 3 hours. So do notice, our time t changes, our distance d, miles, also changes depending on what we put in for the time. Okay, so we can generally see this as an equation format. We have time, and what do we do with the time? We multiply by 65. 65 times t will give us the distance. Once again, our variables t and d, because they vary, they change. So in this case, variables are t and d. They're going to change each time depending on what we plug in for t. We're going to get something for d.